Hello. How are you?
Keeping it real, keeping it real, keeping it real with Shannon, shining through, laughs and insight, shining so bright. Keeping it real, it feels so right. Real, keeping it real, keeping it real, keeping it real.
Hello, and thanks for joining us tonight. We are continuing our celebration of Women's History Month, and we are down to our last woman of the year. Hello there, my co-host. How you doing?
Hi, I'm
Are
doing
you
good
doing?
today.
You doing okay?
Yes, I am.
Well, good, good, good. I'm excited to talk to our guest tonight because, I used to work at Mega Evans College, and I'm just so excited that she's there at Mega Evans College now. So why don't you introduce our guest tonight?
Yes, I'm excited as well. And tonight we have Dr. Patricia Ramsey. She is a leader in higher education as the president of Mega Evers College in Brooklyn, New York. She is the first woman president of Mega Evers and the first scientist to lead the institution. Dr. Ramsey earned a PhD in biology from Georgetown University and a master's in biology from Harvard University. During her tenure, Dr. Ramsey has created programs such as CHAMPS, Cultivating Holistic Academic Mindsets to Promote Student Success, and BRC, Brooklyn Recovery Corps. Dr. Ramsey is committed to student success beyond the classroom and understands that higher education is not just about credentials, but about empowering students to become leaders and change makers in their own rights. So let's welcome Dr. Patricia Ramsey to the show.
Well, hello there, Dr. Ramsey. How you doing?
I am doing great, and thanks for having me on the show.
Well, thank you for joining us. I've been after you for a while, so thank you for taking the time to come on tonight so we can celebrate you. And
Oh, thank
me,
you.
like I said before, I'm just excited you there because I used to work for Mega Evans College, and I'm just excited to see a woman heading at the head of the rim because when we come, we know what to do and we know how to handle business. So thank you and thank you again. So what we want to do, we want to find out who is Dr. Ramsey and like kind of tell us like what has your journey been to get to this position where you are now? Because I know you didn't start off probably wanting to be the president of a college, but or maybe you did, and you put it in place. But so just tell us a little bit about your journey.
Actually, I did not start off wanting to be president of a college. I started off wanting to be a professor when I was in the fourth grade. And I had no idea what a professor was, but for some reason, I wanted to be a professor. And so, had an opportunity to go to school at Norfolk State University in Virginia, where I am from. I grew up in rural Virginia. And I think that every experience that we have in life prepares us for what our destiny is to be. And so I have always been one who wanted to advocate for others, even in the first grade, advocating for that child that the teacher ignored. And so I think that my upbringing with my parents, both being entrepreneurs and civil rights activists in their own right. As children, a lot of the things we saw in them actually has transcended over the years. And it so happens that my sister and I, who were a part of the store that my parents had, we were the workers. If it were today, my parents would be in trouble because we were child labor. But it really taught us a lot. We saw a lot of things. And I think that for both of us who had become leaders, each in different areas, we talk often about how the store really impacted our life. But early on, fast track to higher education from high school to college to graduate school. It has been an interesting journey for me because it has been a challenge being a scientist. And I think that when I say a challenge being a scientist as a woman, and then the intersectionality of being a Black woman.
Right.
It has been an interesting journey, and I think that that journey has made me, I would say, tougher. And I recall when I was living in Williamsburg, Virginia, and a group of people pulled me in to say, "We'd like you to run for city council," because they had never had a Black person on city council at that time. And so one of the questions they asked me was, "Are you tough enough?" And after I told them my PhD story, they said, "Oh, yeah, she's tough enough." And so I've really had a lot of preparation for a time such as this. But how I really got into the higher education journey and administration, I started at Norfolk State. I went to Norfolk State to speak with the president about helping them to bring in a lot of money. I was working at that time as a consultant and writing proposals for communities that could not afford to hire someone to write proposals. I was doing this for these communities gratis. And so when I went to Norfolk State to talk with the president about what I was doing and had this idea that I said, I think I have an idea that can help make the institution rich. He had this conversation with me about, well, your timing is good because our person in development just left. Well, I didn't even know what development was at the time. Found out that this was a fundraising position, and he said that he wanted me to meet with the vice president, and I met with the vice president. And as a result, applied for a position there. At that time, the president was Dr. Harrison B. Wilson, who happens to be the grandfather of the NFL player that you all have heard of, Russell Wilson. Anyway, Dr. Wilson was the type person that if he liked you, he would do things to try to help. And because the meeting we had was very warm, he said, "I think that you would be a good fit in that the person that left couldn't sit in the seat for 30 for 30 minutes." I didn't know what any of that was about, but I did interview for the position with the vice president, and I was hired. But the vice president told me that he did not want to hire a woman, and that was not a part of the process. It was about 6 months after I had arrived, and he said that he didn't want to hire a woman. And he talked to his mom, and he said his mom told him, "You need to get over it." But it's not for the reason you may think. He said he didn't want to hire a woman because he had all women in his office, and there was always something going on, and he didn't want to bring in someone else to add to the mix. But the reason he told me the story, he said, "But Pat, you came in and you were this calming force. You have people talking to each other, supporting each other, and I'm glad that you are here." I was in the development office, did all of the training and fundraising, and would go to the meetings, but discovered that it just was not very stimulating to me intellectually. Because I felt like a high-powered salesperson. And so, working with the faculty there, working with the deans, in order for us to go out and do pitches to various companies, I said, well, if you don't have something at an institution to sell, it's going to be very hard for you to bring in the resources that the institution is seeking. And so I said, I want to do something on the academic side of the house. I was an associate professor in biology at Norfolk State as a part of the position. Each of the people coming in administration could have a faculty appointment if they qualified. So I started as I was an associate professor during the time I was in the development office. And so when the president retired, a new president came in. I went to the biology department and used my skills that I learned while I was in the development office to help that department. And I saw that the students had changed, and I hadn't taught in about 5 years. And I said, well, if the students change, then that means instruction needs to change. And so I just started applying to chief academic officer positions. I had never been a chair or a dean at that time. And so interestingly, I was selected as a finalist for each of the positions I applied to. And having come out of HBCUs and having a heart for HBCUs, I really wanted to be at an HBCU as my first academic position. However, I said, God, I will go wherever you want me to go. And it just so happens that I was on an interview in Ohio. I flew back into Richmond, Virginia. And when my husband picked me up, he said, "So what did you think?" And I said, "Well, they were nice, but I would prefer to be at Shaw if I can." And he said, "Well, the president of Shaw called today, said he was going out of the country. And so he wanted me to relay to you that you have been selected as the the vice president for academic affairs of Shaw." And so that was a very exciting day. And one of the first things I was able to do when I got to Shaw was to change instruction.
So
And I
Dr.
developed,
Ramsey, so Dr.
yes,
Ramsey, before you continue on, I wanted to just go back to a minute when you was talking about when the man didn't want to hire another woman in the office
yeah.
and the reason why.
Hmm.
And I wanted to ask you, why do you think that's always the problem when everybody in the office is women, that is always a problem? What is it that you feel that with women that we just can't seem to get along with each other, or with all the jealousy and stuff, the cackling and the pettiness and stuff?
Well, I'm not going to say it happens in all offices where you have women. I can speak to that particular situation because it was a very tense situation. There were people that were vying for who I would say is going to be the favorite, if you will, or the person who wanted to be seen. And so coming in, because the person that I replaced was a male, and so coming in, and I saw the tension, I felt the tension, even to the point of one day, some women in the back seemed to have gotten into some altercation. And I had a conversation with them. I just said, this doesn't make any sense. And so what happened, one of the women's parent died. And we all came together and we went to that funeral and we supported that person, and it changed the dynamic because we all get to see, really, we're all just human beings and we
Right,
don't really control anything. And
right.
so I think that me being that calming force, if you will, and not really being a person, no matter what my position has been, looking down on anyone. We had secretaries, we had different levels of people in that office. And I came in as really the first woman that to be in that associate vice president level. It was, I think, out of all of them, there were two total at the institution. And
Mhm.
so people try to get you to believe whatever it is that they believe about someone else. But my position always has been, let me make a decision for myself. I'm a scientist. And so first thing I do is I make an observation, then I ask a question.
Mhm.
And
Hold
then
that thought. Hold that
so,
thought, Dr. Ramsey. We're gonna take a hold that thought. We're gonna take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
okay.
Oh yeah, it's Shannon. Oh yeah, it's Shannon. Keeping it real.
our special guest today, Dr. Patricia Ramsey, and we've been talking to her about her journey to where she has gotten to today. So, Dr. Ramsey, I want to get in as much as possible before we run out of time. Now, since you are the first woman president of Medgar Evers College, what can you share with us that has been one of your biggest accomplishments since you have taken over uh, that wonderful job?
Well, one of the things that I did looking at the institution prior to coming here, I came from Maryland, and the community had been so hard hit by the pandemic that I knew that I needed to do something to help uplift community as well as to assist our students with getting their education. And so I wrote a proposal for the two programs that were mentioned when I was being introduced, the CHAMPS program and the BRC program, um, which they both help the students, but also help the community in that um, I was able to get $20 million dollars in funding through writing that proposal, where I put in that the students, if they were to come to Medgar Evers College, sign an agreement that they would complete their degree requirements in 4 years, then they would be supported financially where there was any financial gap. And so essentially, it was not based on need, it was based on a student coming in and having a gap, whether that gap was $2 or whether that gap was $3,000. They just had to agree to finish in 4 years, and this is for freshman students and for new for transfer students. And so that was one piece. And the reason that that was important, that I know that students oftentimes don't finish college because of the financial aspect. And not only did we provide the tuition and fees, we provided them at that time, we had Metro cards and books so that the students would really have no excuse not to finish, and they had to maintain their GPAs. And this is for the student that was not coming out of high school with all A's that could get scholarships anywhere. It was the high school student that was a hard worker, but may not have had that opportunity to get a lot of scholarships elsewhere. And they had come to Medgar Evers. They had to already be admitted into the school. And so we just graduated our first class in 2025 because I did get the funding in 2021. Fall of 2021 was when we had our first group. Well, also with the community, we had small businesses and nonprofits who were very hard hit by the pandemic. And so, what I wrote the proposal to do is to partner with small businesses and nonprofits where the non-profit or small business would have a professional staff member through our students that we place with them as interns, where they would learn that business. So the student is gaining, but the student was being paid by the college from the funding that we were able to get through that grant, the largest grant in the history of the college. And so that happened 6 weeks after I arrived. And we had well over 80 something partners within a short period of time. And it's not a matter of, oh, I want a student, but we actually bring the students together with the partners, and they actually interview each other to see where the best fit is. And then we prepare the students before they go out. And so I would say, if you have to select one thing, I would say it would be getting that large amount of funding to be able to support students to be able to be successful in getting a degree in 4 years and coming out of school without debt.
So
So
since you have made it to the top, and I'm sure there's another top for you to go to after Medgar Evers College, what advice will you give the young women today who are really trying to, climb the ladder, or become successful in their career? What would you say? Not even to the young one, even to all of us as women, because we all have we all have gone through things. I mean, even when I worked at the Board of Ed, I went through a lot, to get from one position to the next because they think, you're not qualified and how did you get it, blah, blah, blah. Then you got to go up against them, filing grievance and all kinds of stuff. Because if you're determined to get where you're going, you're going to do what you have to do. And it's always some obstacle they're trying to put in your way. So, what would you say to women if you
Well,
really want to make it?
I would say do your very best at whatever it is that you're doing. Um, People want folks who really are going to have stick to itiveness, who are consistent, and you get recognized for the work that you do. And even though you may be in a place where you are the only whatever, then they know that you're doing the work. Be consistent and don't let people deter you from whatever the goal is that you have. But I would say don't so much focus on, I want to be this or I want to be that, but focus on doing a good job at what you're doing, and it will give you an opportunity because you will be seen by someone. It will give you an opportunity then to get a great recommendation from where you are, even if they didn't want you there. They can't say that you were a horrible employee. And then you go on to this next place and it may be a better fit. Because the other piece that I want to say to people, if you want to be a president, a CEO, anything, don't look at it from the vantage point of it gives me power, it's going to give me a lot of money, or any of that. Focus on the mission and make sure that it's a good fit. Because if it's not a good fit, I don't care how great you are, how wonderful you are, how many degrees you have, it is not going to work. And for me, I'm a woman of faith. And because of that, I use discernment. And I know, I have no doubt in my mind, no matter what anyone tries to do, that I was sent to Medgar Evers College for a time such as this.
Mm-hmm.
And
Wow.
so, if someone's interested in participating in the programs such as Champs and BRC, what steps can they take?
They can go to our website, which is www.mec, that's mec.cuny.edu, and just put in BRC or Champs, and it will take them to that particular web page.
Okay.
Yeah. You,
And I
you,
hear that you said that just to circle back that you've attended a HBCU and that was something that you plan to do. Do you think that that helped develop you and played a role by going to a HBCU versus?
Absolutely, absolutely. Because one of the things I discovered when I was teaching some years ago, I had students who were excellent students who went to non-HBCU schools and transferred into my institution, because all of the institutions where I have taught or worked have been HBCUs with the exception of one institution in DC. And the students found that they actually felt that they belonged, and belonging is so important for a student to be successful. We talk about family, and Medgar Evers College is not an HBCU, it's a PBI, but people talk about the belonging, how they really feel like it's a family when they come. And the literature shows that people do better in instances where they have people that they can relate to
right.
um,
Right.
in society.
Right. Right. And that's in any. I think that it is in anything that you are involved in, is when
Right.
people can relate to each other, and you show each other love, and you don't try to act like you better than them or you above them.
Absolutely.
Just like in school, with the principal, they need to be at the door greeting the kids when they come in. Just like in church, the pastor need to be at the door telling the people that he appreciate them coming to serve. Is how you approach people and how you go about treating people means a
Absolutely.
lot.
And if I may, the one thing I would leave with anyone watching is be your authentic self, because you can only fake it for so long. And
Exactly.
people can tell when you are authentic and when you're not.
You're right.
Mhm.
Exactly.
And people
Exactly.
just want to be valued.
Absolutely.
And we should value people. When you see people doing a good job, you should tell them they're doing a good job. Because that means a lot, because it makes them feel good. It makes them feel good, to know that you have noticed their work or whatever. It's just like when someone on the job gets a position and the other person want to know how did they get that position. Well, sometimes they get the position because the boss been watching them all the time, but you didn't know the boss was watching you because they see that you was a good worker or whatever.
Yeah, and even in other settings, let's just say it's not at the job. If you are a person who is authentic, people will embrace you.
Well, they're gonna have a little music, Dr. Ramsey, so it's time to go.
Thank you
But
for
look,
being here.
we want to thank you so, so much for coming on tonight and sharing with us your experience. And I just want to congratulate you again for a job well done at Mega Evans College. And I know you had to
Thank
be
you.
doing a good job because I didn't hear anything from the community. So I know you was on it, doing great things and turning Mega Evans around like it should be and everything. So I
Yeah,
congratulate you. I thank you. And
thank
I hope
you.
you will stay there for a while so that way it
Well,
can
I,
grow
I
your
thank you.
business.
And as a woman of faith, I will be there as long as God says I'm to be there.
Yes, yes. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. Everyone, thank you for watching us tonight. And we hope you enjoyed the show. And make sure you watch every Saturday on Free Speech at 5:30 and Neighborhood Network at 2:30. And you can catch us here every Tuesday at 8 p.m. live. So thanks again for joining us. And as always, we'll see you next time.